I've looked up the definition of marriage. I don't see it say. I mean, I got Wiki. I went to the well on this one. Merriam-Webster. Like, what am I missing? So Merriam-Webster.
What did Webster say?
The state of being united as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by law. Like, what am I missing about? Because I've heard you get very deep into the definition. It's a procreative union. But then you also get into the conversation of what about the married couples that don't have kids? Like, tell me what's the deep offense? I just want to understand it because.
Well, here's what I would say. You said, well, how does
is it religious?
Well, it's part of my faith. I don't deny that. I also think that what I'm saying, even if I didn't have a deep Christian faith, my stance on marriage and the family, I think, would probably be the same. Now, it's impossible to say that because you take my faith away from me, I'm a totally different person. So who knows what I would say? So your question was, well, how does someone have a gay couple? How does that impact my family? And the answer is that an individual. So you, for example,
take me
right. You individually don't have any impact on me or on my family, obviously. We're not walking around every day. We don't like get up in the morning and we're like, oh man, Jillian Michaels we can't
get married.
Can't make breakfast this morning because it's not, that's of course not what's happening, and I would never claim that. The issue is it's a societal. It's an issue in society. It's a societal wide issue that when a society abandons what has always been recognized as the definition and meaning and purpose of the marital union, when they abandon what marriage is, that has vast implications for society. And
then because I'm saying everything I find is matrimony or wedlock, culturally often legally recognized union between two people called spouses. It establishes rights and obligations between them, as well as them and their children, if any, between them and their in-laws. What is the definition that you have that's outside of what's in the dictionary? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to understand. Is it religious? And then which religion? Because there's different definitions of marriage per polygamy, this common law marriage, group marriage. I mean, that's
because marriage codifies, protects, sanctifies the inherently procreative union of a man and a woman.
Okay,
and
that's for you though.
It's first of all, it's not just for me. It's for society since the dawn of human civilization until approximately 15 seconds ago. So it's not just me. And there's something very real here. Like this is the way I've tried to explain it. Explain my view. That let's say society were to come crumbling down around us, and we wake up amid the ashes with no memory of anything that happened before, and we're rebuilding from scratch. It's like fundamentally from the ground up. We have to rebuild everything, right? And we look around and we see like the survivors, the people, and we see that they kind of have a tendency to pair up, and we see that there's this one pairing that has this funny habit of creating people. There's this one type of pairing that only this type can create a person.
Okay.
I think we would say, well, that's different. This is a different kind of thing because it's different from these other relationships because it has this capacity that no other relationship does. And that capacity is not, it's not a small thing. It's not incidental. It's not, it's not superficial. I mean, it creates people. In fact, the further existence
Sex creates people.
Right,
I
sex
mean,
between a
a
man and a
one
woman.
night stand can create a person.
Right.
I would say a marriage
Yes, but
nurtures a child. In a loving marriage with kids, you're there to love them, you're there to guide them. I can teach my son
right,
how
and
to take risks, although I do appreciate the necessity of a father's role, and that is a huge thing. I don't disagree with you on that. I'm not trying to take that away from you. But two idiots having a one night stand can have a baby.
sure, and that exactly, and that I think only proves my point that this union, this coupling of a man and a woman is loaded with implications and with a power that no other type of relationship, let me finish,
Yeah, you're right. Go
no
ahead.
other type of relationship has.
Sure.
And so I think it makes sense for society to say, well, this is a different kind of thing. And this is frankly more important than any of these other kinds of relationships because of the power that it has. And so we are going to call that something else, and we are going to protect it in a way that we don't protect other relationships because those other relationships do not have this capacity. Um, and for thousands of years of human history, uh, that's what marriage did. That was the point of marriage. It was to codify and protect the inherently and uniquely procreative union of a man and a woman.
Okay.
A union that by its nature can procreate. Although of course we know that there are plenty of cases where they don't.
They don't have kids, right?
Right.
And
But
I would say that it's not marriage that makes a baby; it's sex between a man and a woman that makes a baby. And
yeah,
anybody
marriage
can
doesn't
do
make the
that,
baby. Right. You're right.
married or not. And
Marriage is there to protect and solidify that family for when the baby is created. Of course, the marriage doesn't create the baby, but the marriage is there very much there for the baby.
but then why would you deny children in a gay family to have those protections? Because there are tons of them. There are over 1,100 rights that come with marriage. I'm a tax-paying American. Why would I be denied that? I mean, the list is like insane. It's everything from making spousal medical decisions, being able to jointly adopt a kid, joint filing of taxes. I mean, the list is so long. Property tax exemptions. It's 1,100. And these are things that I do want to be able to protect my wife when I die, to pass our things on to her, for her to be able to visit me whenever, if I'm sick, for her to be able to say DNR if I'm dying, and vice versa. And then there's all kinds of things that protect kids. Like, what if I was a scumbag and I don't want to pay for the two kids that I had from my previous relationship? Like, I legally have to do that. Like, well, if we were married, I did not marry this woman, but I protect my kids. But imagine if I was a scumbag, if we were married, there's laws that I have to take care of them. And if she said, well, you know, the boy child's mine, I would have no right to the child if I didn't have the rights that are provided. She could take my son and boogie. And so there's so many protections that this provides for the kids and for people who love each other that I can't understand. I get why you feel like, hey, you're threatening what I have that's special. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. And I wish there was a way for me to make you
But
not feel
it's
diminished.
not you threatening. It's the societal recognition um, of it as a marriage. The trying to equate it with what I would consider to be true marriage. That becomes uh, the threat, if you will, if that's the language you want to use.
I don't know. That's how I'm interpreting it from you, is that it feels like a threat to the things that you hold dear. And it feels like, where does it stop? I'm interpreting how I think you feel. So please correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it is because the institution of the family, is the bedrock of human civilization. Um, Marriage is the bedrock of the family, and so anything that threatens the family, yes, it does. It threatens the things I hold dear because I hold civilization dear, and so in that sense, yes.
But you're talking, okay, now we're talking, if we get into the conversation of like a hierarchy of family, right? And sure, I'm not going to be the one who's going to disagree with you. Then in a perfect world, and people can get pissed all they want. In a perfect world, a kid would have a mom and a dad. I understand how important those two roles are. Trust me. Which arguably, I was like, I don't, I wanted to adopt a child. My ex wanted to have one. I don't want to take that away from her. I'm not sorry. Kids, both of them are the apple of my eye. That said, it was of deep concern to have a boy without a father. I don't disagree at all. And have a brother who's a very dear friend of the family that's been a father figure. Is it a father? No. However, if we get into the hierarchy of it, what about the dad that never showed up? What about the dad that took off? What about the dad that was an alcoholic? Well, I know I didn't have a super duper dad. It's better now, but I know a lot of people. Like I was just this morning with Brigham Bueller, who is just a great guy. I'm not sure if you know him. He's on Rogan all the time. Foster kid. And I was talking about speaking with you. He's like, well, love is the most important thing. I was like, I would say that. That would be my argument because from a hierarchical perspective, I'll give you the top of the mountain. But then I think love, and that would be, a marriage without love, I think you lose too. So if you said man, woman, love, I would go, well, yes, I'm with you, number one. But when in the world are you getting this unicorn society? Like your house might be that, and that's wonderful. But I would tell you, I don't think the majority are. And I think providing kids with love and structure is the most important thing if you don't have this perfect scenario. And allowing gay parents to get married is so much better for the psychology of their children. And I think it's a fantasy world to think they won't have kids.
Well, they won't have kids. That's part of the point.
Well, my ex had a kid.
Right, but in a gay relationship, you're not going to have kids in the sense that a man and woman create kids.
True,
right?
But she created a kid with a
Right.
friend of the
And
family.
I don't think you're correct that in so many scenarios, this ideal that I'm talking about is not realized. I mean, we just talked about the Black community, 70%, 80% fatherless rate. White community, like I said, I think it's 30 or 40%. It's rising. It's a crisis in its own right. I think the way to address that is not to just give up on the concept of marriage and family as it's been understood for thousands of years, but to solidify and protect what we have. And I mean, it has been thousands of years.
But men have had numerous wives too in different cultures. Like, if you go, what book are we talking about? And forgive me, I'm not well versed on different religions because my parents.
Polygamy. Polygamy has.
Didn't Abraham, Sarah had numerous wives, and then hence the reason you had like Ishmael and Israel and all this chaos because there were numerous wives.
Yeah, you'll find historically.
I'm an idiot on this stuff, but
Well, here's what I'll say. You'll find historically that polygamy has been. There have been cultures that practice polygamy. Even now today, you'll find that. But and I'm certainly not a polygamist myself, and I don't condone it.
Might be missing out.
No, I don't think I am. I'm quite happy. But,
I'm kidding.
But here's the point that those marriages were still fundamentally procreative, and so it was still the recognition of this basic deep truth that I'm talking about, even in societies that practice polygamy. In fact, for them, procreation was so much the point that's part of the reason why they had polygamy was so they could create even more kids. And if you go back far enough in time into human history, when there weren't that many people on Earth,
why be married if it's all about having kids?
Right, I mean, you could argue if you go back far enough in history, you could argue that that way back when that polygamy served a purpose in like populating the Earth and we don't. So but it's always been that fundamental purpose. There has never been a society until ours right now that has said, well, actually, marriage has nothing to do with procreation at all. That society has never existed, unless you can think of an example.
No, there's rights that pertain to the kids, but my ex procreated, but also I adopted a kid. We adopted a kid. And what happens to all these protections then if you hypothetically got your way?
Well, I mean, you'd have tough individual situations like that. I don't deny it. And when you allow for the institution of marriage to be essentially disbanded, as it has been in this country,
I don't
and
see that, Matt.
any effort to
I don't see that allowing people to be a part of something that is special. I don't see how that disbands it. I see
how
it as,
how would you define marriage?
well, I mean, I would go with these literal definitions. So, the state of being united as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by law. That is literally how I define it. And also called matrimony or wedlock, culturally and often legally recognized union between two people called spouses. And yes, I know historically the spouses were man and woman, but it establishes rights and obligations between them, as well as between them and their children.
Do you recognize at least that removing the family, removing the creation of children from the definition entirely
What
means
about the couples that
means that
don't
you have
have
it means that
kids?
it means you have a definition there that is, would you at least recognize that
Okay.
it is unprecedented in the history of human civilization?
I guess so. I mean, I would have to go. I don't know. I know that there's been homosexuality throughout history. I would presume to. I guess so. I've done zero homework on this, so if somebody knows better than me, please leave it in the comments. But at the same time, women were getting raped. Slavery was legal. Like, there's a lot of things we had to evolve out of. So, if we dive back,
I don't think marriage was one of those things.
but marriage has
Marriage was, again, it's the foundation of human
but you're
civilization.
defining
Slavery
marriage as the
and rape
way.
are not.
Okay, but your definition, and this is where I guess we would have to agree to disagree, is your definition is copulation. To me, that's copulation. Marriage is this. And so to me, it's about protecting
That's
the
not the
kid
entire definition.
of marriage or of making a.
That is a procreation, I'd prefer to say,
Okay.
is not the entire definition of marriage, but it is an essential component of what marriage
What
is.
about people that don't have kids that are married? I don't see you going after their marriage. Or are you? I mean, did I miss it? I missed
No,
it.
no,
Is it-
I certainly wouldn't, because that does not challenge the inherent nature of the thing. So you could have couples that,
But you're saying the inherent nature is procreation.
right,
What if they're not procreating?
right, and there are. It's like I could say that it's natural. It's in our nature for a human being to be born with two legs. Um, there are humans that are born without them. That doesn't mean they're not human, but this is a there's something has gone wrong, and so they were not able to fully participate in that aspect of being a human, unfortunately. But that doesn't challenge the nature of what it means to be human. And I would say that one of the natural, the nature of marriage is procreative, and even though you have men and women who get together and turns out they can't have kids, tragically, it doesn't challenge the
Who may
nature of what
not
marriage is.
want to have kids? Do they get their rights stripped away? And also, I would simply say, being a person of faith, obviously you believe in God. Why would God create something that is not okay? Like somehow, unless if you're an atheist or you're agnostic, then maybe you could say like this is a freak show. But if you believe in God, why would he, she, whatever they pick?
He.
Did you have it?
Let's do he.
let's do God. So we don't get into too much trouble. God, because I say she, you'll say he. Let's settle on God. I'm actually genderless with my God. Okay, moving on, Jill. Point being, why would God allow for gay people to exist?
Are you Christian?
I'm totally agnostic. I would. I
You're
wasn't.
agnostic, but you believe in God.
I believe in more. Agnostic. Okay, so my understanding of atheist, I don't believe in anything. Agnostic, I do believe in something. I don't know exactly what it looks like. I wasn't raised with an organized religion because my mother was Jewish and my father was Greek Orthodox. So I think both of them felt like, you know what, she'll figure it out. I love science. I like listening to astrophysicists talk about the universe and you know, that stuff really, to me, is proof of God when I hear about that stuff. But I think there's more. I think everything's just far too awesome for there not to be some creating energy. I don't judge people for their religion, whatever it may be. None of my business. Don't care. Respect all of it. But if you are a believer, why would God create something that's wrong? Historically speaking, even if you look at the animal kingdom, there have been gay animals. Then they take care of orphaned animals. Like maybe that's why people are gay. I don't know. I didn't. I adopted a child because I felt something in me telling me this is what I needed to do. Calling, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, the only thing I would say to that is uh, what I would say in my faith is that just because we find in ourselves a desire to do something, that doesn't mean that God wants us to do it. I mean, there are many examples, and we could list examples of things that people want to do that they shouldn't do. Does that mean that God ordains it just because they find that desire in them? I would say no. In fact, even let's take a married man who might experience the desire to have an affair. He didn't choose to want that, but he wants it. And did that come from God? I would say that it didn't. And in fact, what God wants in that case is for you to reject that desire that you have and put it on, and
But that's like
stay
saying
true to
you want a
your
black
duties.
person to reject being black. Gay people, a lot of us are just born this way. And to be honest with you, I grew up very homophobic. And I would have taken any other path, Matt, trust me, for how unpopular that may sound.
This is also a different conversation from
Yeah, gay families. I know.
from marriage.
Maybe I should, yes, it is. Because I've interpreted it as a segue into like God would want you to reject it. And I would tell you that I think people would be so miserable who are inherent genetically, whatever it may be. I think there's a genetic component for sure because it's not really something you can, at least for me and everybody I know, it's not a choice. And also I think there's more harm done by rejecting who you are than being who you are. Whereas if you're in a marriage and you cheat, I don't see anything good coming out of that. If you're unhappy, I would say you've outgrown the marriage. That's unfortunate. I understand you would fight for it. I think people can grow apart. I would say maybe this isn't the marriage for you. Personally, I wouldn't make that choice willy-nilly. Listen, first of all, keeping it real with Jillian Michaels.